This is a brief presentation that will show you how to set up a paper for essays or for turning it into a college class for any project really, for Turnitin.com for sure. But it can be used for any essay that you turn in if you take an online class or if you take a class in a regular classroom and you're not sure how to set things up. So I'm going to walk you through. Now the computer that I'm using is a Mac, so my version of Microsoft Word may differ from yours, but the setup that you're going to use will be the same no matter what program that you're going to use. It may just be more difficult to find the actual icons that you need. But the first thing that you want to do is set your paper up so that you have your name and the class and all that information and have it in the correct order. So I'm just going to pretend my name's John Smith, and John Smith will be the first name that I put at the top of the page. I'll come down. Then I will put the name of the class. Let's say it's English 1101, Section 1. You put the name of your professor. And a lot of people aren't sure if they should put Mr. whatever. You know, you could also put Dr. Bruce here if you know the person has their doctorate. Some students, they aren't sure, especially if you're starting out. You're not sure if your professor's a doctor or not. You're not sure if you're supposed to say that, if it's Mr., if it's Doctor. So, you know, if you're unsure, unclear, you can always do Professor. But always try to put the name of your professor for the paper so, you know, it attaches it to that class in the section. And then here you'll put the date. And so mine wants to autofill, and that's fine. February 4th, 2013. Then I'm going to come down 2 spaces, and then I'm going to center. And then I'm going to put a title for essay here. And I don't really have a title to establish, but always give your essay a title and make it something more creative than Essay 1 title. You know, having an essay with no name is like having a child that you don't give a name to as well. So you want to have something identifiable, something that's unique that, you know, might catch the reader's attention immediately. All right, then we're going to come down 2 more spaces. We're going to go back to our left indent, but here now what I'm going to do is, do you see these? It looks like a little hourglass and underline. You want to pull the top part, the first line indent, you want to take the top one over and pull it over 5 spaces or for a tab. And that means every time you hit enter, it'll start a tab, it'll do an indent for you. So then you can begin your essay here. And then as you type through everything, it will just run along for all the words straight across, break on its own, and when you decide to create a new paragraph and you hit return again, you'll start back right up under in this space. But if you're not, it'll keep writing. So always just remember to move your tab here after you've done all these other things when you start writing your essay, and then everything will fall in line under that indentation. And it will be indented properly when you submit it. Now if you want to insert page numbers, you can go to your program and tell it to do page numbers, and it will ask it, where do you want it? Do you want it at the bottom of the page? Do you want it on the right-hand side? I normally put the page number up in the header and tell it OK. And now here's something that happens. This isn't what you always need to do. You know, some professors are sticklers and they don't want you to have a number on the first page, and that's okay if you do that. To avoid that, you can go to your page setup under File. And if you have a Mac, it's going to look different when you do page setup at first than if you have a regular, or not a regular, but a Windows computer. But you just go to page attributes, but then you tell it you want it to go to the Microsoft Word options, but you're trying to get to the margins. Click on margins. It's a little more complex, but this should help you. The computer has to think for a moment because it's recording. Then it's going to pull up and it gives you all your list of margins, which I don't mess with these unless there's a specific margin that your professor wants you to have. But if you click on the layout, there's an option here. It says different odd and even page or different first page. And if you click different first page, click enter, you'll see that goes away. But what happens is once you get a second page, and we'll do like a insert a page, do a hard return page break. When we get a second page, you'll see here that it will start numbering at the second page. Okay? And if you want your name on all the pages, which this is up to you, and some professors want this, some don't, all you need to do is go to View and view your header and footer, and it'll highlight that. Find your cursor, then tell your cursor to do a right justification, and then you just type your last name, and then it'll hit it on all the pages after that. Tell it to close, and that takes care of itself. Okay. The other thing that you need to do for your paper is you want to make sure, go to paragraph, tell your paragraph to do double space. Now some people do double space all along, and they'll double space even this information here. That's not necessary. It kind of wastes a little space, but definitely or absolutely try to double space your paragraphs, because that way, as you type, you'll create additional lines in between your words, in between your sentences. See how it jumps here? And what happens if when your essay's being corrected, or when somebody's reading over it, if they see something they need to correct, they can write here in the margins with their pen, or with turnitin.com, I'll be placing little markers over these. It's a lot easier to read if you have double spaces. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I'm expecting all essays to be double spaced, and I expect it to follow this same little format. And most professors accept the same format as well. You know, when you have your page breaks, so they'll always do what you want it. On the second page, it'll have the numbering if you do it that way. Not as worried about that so much, about this part, as I am that all this information is done correctly and that you double space. So remember to double space your essays. And hopefully this will help. I'm going to try to do a presentation after this that will talk about the works cited page, because that's a different element that you'll need to do as well in your upcoming essays. The other thing is, always make sure, here it's over here where you got your fonts, make sure you're using like a Times New Roman font or a Times font. You don't want anything cursive or curly Q, just something very basic and plain. And always do a 12-point font unless your professor tells you to do otherwise. So if you follow these directions, you should be doing a good job. Happy writing.